Friends, just think for a moment. What do you think is the biggest thing on our planet? You might say, continents, mountains, forests, or deserts. But the truth is, even if you put all of those together, they're still smaller than one single thing: the Pacific Ocean. This ocean is so massive that if you drilled a straight hole through the Earth from one side, you'd come out still inside the Pacific Ocean. Water on both ends of the Earth. The Pacific covers nearly 165 million square kilometers. For comparison, all the land on Earth, every mountain, desert, forest, and island, adds up to only 148 million square kilometers. That means the Pacific Ocean alone is larger than the entire landmass of our planet combined. Now imagine this. In such a vast ocean, if a single person were to disappear, the chances of ever finding them would be close to zero. And that's exactly what happened to one man. Today, I'll share with you a true story that will leave you stunned. The story of a fisherman who survived alone at sea for 438 days. Yes, you heard that right. Almost 14 months without any help. A survival record that no one would ever want to break. It all started in 2012. In a small Mexican fishing village called Costa del Sol, a 36-year-old fisherman named Jose Salvador Alvarenga went out to sea with his small boat. He had a companion with him, and their plan was simple: just a 30-hour fishing trip. That's why they carried very little food and supplies, only a cooler to keep the fish, and a single day's worth of food and water. But neither of them knew that the next year and a half of their lives would be spent adrift in the ocean. About 120 kilometers from the Mexican coast, they had just dropped their nets when a violent storm struck. Waves rose higher than buildings. The tiny boat was tossed up into the sky and slammed down into the water again and again. They abandoned the fishing nets and tried to steer back toward shore. For 6 straight hours they fought the storm, and by dawn the coastline was finally in sight. But fate had other plans. Just 20 kilometers away from safety, their engine died. Now they had no motor, no sail, no paddles, nothing but a small radio. Jose quickly radioed his boss, sending their location and asking for help. But a few hours later, the radio battery died, and with that, their last connection to the outside world was gone. The winds and currents began to push their powerless boat farther and farther away from the coast. The village they had seen with their own eyes slowly disappeared over the horizon. A search party was launched, but the Pacific is so enormous, their little boat was swallowed by the waves. Their one-day supply of food and water was gone in no time. To survive, they resorted to desperate measures. Catching seabirds with their bare hands, eating raw fish, collecting rainwater in bottles whenever they could. But when it didn't rain for days, Jose had to drink turtle blood and fish blood just to stay alive. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. The boat drifted endlessly, surrounded by nothing but water. The silence was unbearable. And eventually, Jose's companion could no longer take the suffering. Weakened by hunger and despair, he took his own life. Now Jose was completely alone, with no one left to talk to, surrounded by nothing but the endless ocean. After months of struggling, Jose spotted a huge cargo ship in the distance. Imagine his excitement, his chance to finally be rescued. He screamed, waved his arms, did everything he could. But in the vastness of the Pacific, his tiny boat was invisible. The ship passed by. Hope was ripped away in an instant. After 6 months of clinging to life, Jose was left in despair once again. By now, nearly 11 months had passed. Jose had drifted over 8,000 kilometers across the Pacific Ocean. His clothes were shredded, his body burned by the sun, but his will to survive remained. Then one day in January 2014, he saw coconuts floating in the water. He knew what that meant. Land was nearby. Gathering every last ounce of strength, Jose jumped into the ocean and swam. Finally, after 438 days, he set foot on solid ground. The island was part of the Marshall Islands, nearly 10,000 kilometers from where he had started. Local villagers found him, gave him food and shelter, and for the first time in over a year, Jose heard another human voice. Jose was eventually brought back home. He published a book titled 438 Days, telling his unbelievable story of survival. But controversy followed. his companion's family accused him of murder. In reality, his partner had taken his own life, unable to survive the torment. Today, Jose Salvador Alvarenga is still alive. But his story remains one of the most extraordinary survival tales in history. And it teaches us something powerful. The ocean may look beautiful, but it can also be merciless. And in the end, the only thing that can carry a human through the impossible is hope, courage, and the will to live.